Tito, thank you so much for accepting the interview at Style Right off your busy schedule. So this is Tito, who is the executive producer of Portland FashionXT. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you start FashionXT? I always wondering, everything people do may have something to do with their childhood experience. So I don't know about you. Maybe you can tell us a little bit.
I agree with you, and it probably comes from somewhere from my background and childhood. But before I go there, I want to thank you for taking your time to be here. And of course, as you can imagine, 3 weeks before the show, it is a very busy time for us. But I'm happy to talk about what is it that gets us going. So I think I've always been interested in creating connection between a cause or an experience with people, and that has been my interest, and I always was drawn to those kind of things. And even in my earlier days in my school or college, and later. So that is at the core, that it has something with purpose, and I want people to feel drawn and connection to it, and that has drawn me through my engagement with art and culture and successively into fashion.
And interesting enough, I actually just find out you and I used to both for a semiconductor factory, and now we're both in the fashion industry, and it's an interesting transformation for both of us. And so, can you maybe tell us a little bit how did you decide to pursue a totally different path from your engineering background?
You'll be surprised that, like, at the core of it, the reasoning is very similar. For me to pursue my academics in the science and engineering, and successively getting into the world's largest semiconductor company, and then getting into fashion. Because at the core of it, that has always drawn me is how what I'm doing has a purpose to it, and that has drawn me into technology because and high tech, and obviously working a company like Intel, which creates the computer chip that impacts human race, the way people live in the modern time. So as I was in that field, while working there, I found that I need more immediate reciprocation or sense of gratification that what I'm doing. What is the sense of purpose? What am I doing it for? So for, as interesting as it sounds, for what I was doing in the engineering side, it seemed like a little too far out that how it impacts the people, and at least to the extent that it was perceived by me. So for creating fashion experience for independent designers, it felt very much that I'm helping these creatives who need help in telling their story, in showing their creation, which is fashion collections, to the world. When they need help in terms of the discipline, in terms of the work, delegation, and result orientation, some of the terms that you heard from Intel, those really can help them to tell their story better, to connect to their target audience better. So that's what I bring from my background about like timeliness of the things and doing result orientation and how you break down a big project into smaller pieces and get it done on time and with a high quality. Those kind of things are exactly the same, whether it is whether you are working to create a complicated computer chip or whether you are producing a huge Fashion Week event. So at the core of it, there are a lot of similarity in there, and also the sense of purpose-wise, how those kind of things translate into that.
That's right. Thanks. And let's move on to the next question I have for you. Can you tell us a little bit about this year's fashion show, what you have in fold for us?
As you know, 2017 Fashion Week, FashionXT week is coming in the second week of October, in exactly 3 weeks, 11th to the 14th in October. And we have designers, 30 of them coming from all over the world, as far as from Dubai. The best designers from other cool metropolitans in the USA, like Austin, Seattle, New Orleans, even Kansas City and LA. Our designers are coming from those cities to launch their next season's collections from our runway. The runway is the longest we have ever done. It is a 100-feet long runway. And one of the interesting thing, and as you could imagine, that me coming from the technology background, I always find a way to show what's next in fashion. Right. And what's next in fashion is the tremendous amount of innovation that is going on from the technology side for fashion. FashionXT has worked with a California-based company, Fits, who are a leader in 3D printed fashion.
Yes, I heard about that.
And connected them with a fashion designer, Project Runway winning fashion designer, Seth Aaron, to create the world's first high fashion, ready-to-wear shoes that are 3D printed.
The other thing I always think that's interesting, and I believe my readers might also be interested, is how do you normally select designers?
So as you know, that FashionXT is a Fashion Week event where we are showing designers from all over the world. Also, as you know, our unique niche or tagline is experience what's next. So experience what's next can vary over time. We select designers, and by the way, it is very important to recognize, while in the rest of the country, in the USA, you see a lot of criteria, a lot of criticism that, like, even including in New York or LA and other fashion weeks, there is less and less of curation. Anybody can show, and things like that is diluting the value of those things. We are the only show where designers go through a pretty strong selection process. There are emerging designers accelerator we do, where a set of industry leaders, through a very rigorous audition process, select several designers, emerging designers. We train them through mentorships and all of that for several months, and they show their finale collection on the runway. There are a lot of other ways designers reach with us, and we have a selection body. We look at their work, and we take it from there.
My next question is, I know, even though you have been successfully running the FashionXT all this past years, and I know you do a lot of things yourself. So tell us, what is your biggest challenge of running FashionXT?
As you know, at FashionXT, our goal is to provide a world-class fashion show for designers to tell their story, to show their collection. And for that, we want to make sure the talent reigns supreme. It is not the cost of the show or resource engagement with the show that doesn't become the biggest challenge, as it is for a lot of designers in some of the big cities, fashion weeks like New York and LA and other places. So for us, we subsidize these shows in a huge way for the designers. So that means we have to accumulate the other resources through sponsorships or through in-kind support from a lot of the different entities. And that's where the lot of our work goes to provide the value proposition, to communicate the value proposition to the whether it's sponsors, whether it's in-kind supporters, and so that remains the biggest challenge, because as the show getting bigger, and the economy gets better, the expenses in every direction goes up. So and that otherwise the team is completely capable of creating this world-class show. As you know, we're in Time Magazine as the #1 fashion production in the U.S. outside New York.
Thank you so much for your time and this short interview with me on Style Right blog. And I'm very much looking forward to an amazing show this year. And as you know, I will be there every night to report out the amazing FashionNXT.
I know you will be there, and I'm very much looking forward to present a great show for you, being a wonderful stylist and a blogger, but also to the huge variety of audience that are coming from all over the place to see what's next in fashion at FashionNXT.
Thank you.